Well, it's good morning and welcome to the second in what looks as though it could be quite a big series of places of interest on our doorstep. And today we're off trying to find something a little unusual. A Canadian army base in the middle of the Hampshire countryside. We shall see what we see.
I know that time does not stand still. Can see the world when it's spinning, spinning, compensating for the moments that I spill. Wish I could fly like an airplane, airplane.
So today we're here on Ludshot Common. I guess the question is why on what is now National Trust land is there a Canadian Army camp. This part of England, South East in particular, has a long history of the Ministry of Defence during times of war taking over large tracts of land, and so when World War II came along, Ludshot Common was utilised for military purposes, which is why the Canadians were given part of this land to build a base. Anyway, we're here at the first sign of where this camp was. Okay, so I am guessing that these concrete post holes, which you'd initially think is fairly modern, is probably not. Look where the camp used to be. You'd be forgiven for thinking nature has completely recovered the land, but actually it's not so true. When they demolished this place, they planted native saplings in the hope to recover the land back to nature. Whilst the saplings have been planted, one thing they forgot is that the animals in nature has this habit of seeing those as lunch. So everything that should have been there that was planted post demolition was eaten by rabbits and what have you. And for some bizarre reason, the rabbits didn't see the exotic plants as quite as tasty. We wanted some more substantial concrete features. I believe that this was part of the surrounding defence of the camp. There's those there. There's also these over here. I'm sort of guessing that we are at one corner of the camp. We're sort of wandering aimlessly around this through these woods because apart from an article, a very detailed article, that goes over the history of this place, apart from that article and an aerial photo that it contained and a sketch, there isn't much in the way of documentation.
Stop forsaking everything that I've done. Won't be breaking easily now.
So, a large proportion of what is instantly recognisable is actually out here in what is now the car park. I'm not entirely sure what this place is, although that looks like a platform with posts possibly to hold up a veranda roof of some description, and metal reinforcing bars, which I'm guessing were there to hold some sort of concrete fencing. I'm not sure. So this road here, as I understand it, is one of the largest remaining parts of this camp. I don't think I've actually mentioned what the name of the camp was. It's called Camp Superior. Oh no, it wasn't called Camp Superior, it was called Superior Camp. Getting very Americanized there. But this road is a good piece of Canadian concrete. Some more concrete walls. Now this is quite a structure, although I think that's something to do with a post hole, large post hole of some description. I know that there is a firing range, what's remaining of a firing range here, and pretty much everything else was raised almost to the ground, concrete foundations. So I say nature has done its best to hide that. Every now and again you see little snippets. See if I can find some more out this way.
So tell me straight up, up, up. I don't want it, no other way, no other way, other way. Tell me straight up, up, up. I don't want it, no other way, no other way, other way.
Right, well, I think I have found what was the parade ground. Everywhere else, apart from way off in that direction, is quite thick woodland. This, on the other hand, is apart from one or two trees, nothing seems to want to grow in the middle here. This is the ground itself. We've got a solid piece of sandstone. I'm guessing that for the purposes of World War II, it wasn't a tarmacked parade ground. If you're marching your soldiers up and down, that's all the space you really need. But there was a sketch produced by a local who, whilst the Canadians were here, worked for his father's business as a milk delivery kid. And so he was probably one of the few locals that had access to the base and knew what all the buildings were. I can't see any structures here. I think the bulk of the village may be off that way, so I'm going to wander down that way, see what we find.
La,
Back on the, I think this is the secondary road of the camp. I'm sure this is non-native species, which is what's left over from some of the plants that were planted in gardens. In fact, look, that looks to me to be some sort of apple, some sort of apple tree. I think we found somebody's front garden there. I'm sure people see me keep popping in and out of the undergrowth here and wonder what the hell I'm doing. I'm not entirely sure how many people realise what they have around them. Let's see what we've got up here. I must admit, I find it quite amazing. This is 70 odd years ago. I'm not entirely sure when it got demolished. Guessing around sometime in the 50s. In this country, anything that's 70 years old is irrelevant, is not of interest. We have so much history that goes back so far that we ignore the history that once was yesterday and is now 70 years ago. You go to places like America where anything 100 years is extraordinary. 70 years is people make a hike to go and see. 70 years here, we come and walk our dogs on it. I suppose it keeps us fit. Right, I have found what remains of the NAAFI. I think it's definitely a substantial wall here. In fact, more of a substantial wall. I'm glad I found that. Look at that. These are the foundations to it. We've got the wall there, which turns and comes this way. And then there's a T. One of the purposes of a NAAFI is to provide a hot meal after a long day marching up and down the parade ground, being shouted at by the Sergeant Major. That there could have been the dining area, and this here could have been the kitchen area. That wall keeps going. That could be the turn there. So the turn is the other side of that tree. That tree, I think we can safely say, is less than 60 years old. Oh, and there's the other bit of the wall. That is the return. So this building was a big T shape, looking from the top. If you guys watched the last video in this series from the Atlantic Wall that the Canadians built, you'll know that despite the fact that it's obviously not a native environment to this area, the lime in that concrete has provided a little ecosystem for plants that didn't previously flourish here. I don't know where the front of this building is. I've just tried to line up. I think that there we'd be looking at the very centre of the front of the NAAFI. So as I mentioned at the beginning, this idea of looking at what was on the doorstep has made me realise there's a lot. And so I hope to be able to document most of what I've found already. I think we'll definitely be back here again once I found out more information on this camp. In fact, just over there, just down the hill there, is another place I want to document in more detail, a place called Wagoner's Wells. I've already managed to find 20 or so places I want to document, and I'm sure that number will just increase. And even then, the concept of it being literally on the doorstep is quite a fluid one, because although I live on the Hampshire-Surrey border, I work in London 2 days a week. And of course, London has an awful lot to offer. Well, that's... we got a very, very hot, thirsty dog there. That is the end of this vlog. I hope that you guys found it interesting. I hope that you enjoy this entire series, and if you did, give us a thumbs up. And if you've got any comments, if you know more about the about Superior Camp, locations of the buildings, locations of the firing range, any of that, that'd be brilliant, because then that makes my job a lot easier of trying to find it and document it later on.
So watch me